How is there no one in Trump's ear that's like, Mr. President, you have to pull back? I genuinely don't understand that. I actually am shocked. Like, no European leaders are fucking out here being like, we should probably put an end to this. I just don't understand it. Bezalel Smotrich is saying this in English, that they have no investment in continuing this war, right? Bezalel Smotrich is actively running around being like, we're staying out of this, we're good. But also the intel that Trump is receiving from the Israeli side, that seemingly is the only piece of intelligence that he listens to. He's a fucking idiot. Okay. Partially due to the boomer philosemitism, I think, that these old guys are all about, I'm not fucking dying for Israel. That's so stupid. Bezalel Smotrich. More leaked Israeli intelligence designed to pressure Trump to bomb Iran. What a surprise. Israeli intelligence believe Iran moved thousands of uranium enrichment centrifuges into tunnels deep inside a mountain last fall. Israeli and U.S. officials say a development that would heighten concerns that Tehran could reconstitute its nuclear program. Israel passed along the intelligence findings to the U.S., saying the centrifuges were transferred to Pickaxe Mountain site last fall after the 12-day war in June, when American and Israeli strikes pummeled Iran's three main nuclear sites. I mean, look, at some point you got to realize these guys are not fucking reliable, right? But Trump's closest allies are also huge ultra-Zionists. Trump's closest advisors are either unbelievably loyal to Israel's interests or directly Israeli. His advisors are giving him Israeli intelligence that has failed the Americans over and over again. He's always, weirdly enough, this is not just an Israel-specific thing. I've talked about this with Vladimir Putin as well. He, for some reason, does not trust his own intelligence community's assessment. He has always done this. He did this with Vladimir Putin, too. If you remember, his own intelligence community notoriously would feed him information, and he would be like, no, shut the fuck up. You're the deep state. You're all woke and gay. I don't know what the reason is. And he would literally listen to Vladimir Putin in the Ukraine conflict leading up to the Alaska summit. He gave a higher degree of emphasis to what Vladimir Putin was telling him rather than his own intelligence community. And I don't know why he does this, but he just does not trust his own intelligence community's assessment. He does not trust his own fucking generals. It's very strange. I think he has this. I think in some ways, look, who knows what Trump thinks, right? It's virtually impossible to understand what the fuck this guy is thinking because he doesn't think, right? But I will say this. I think that he believes his own bullshit. I think he believes the whole, like, the intelligence community is out to get me. The FBI was directed by Obama to surveil me. So I think there's like a resilient resentment that he has towards his own intelligence community for that reason. So when they're like, hey, we don't have enough munitions. Hey, Mr. President, here's the intelligence that says that if we just bombed Iran through just the aerial bombardment campaign, we're not actually going to be able to destroy the IRGC. We're not going to be able to destroy the Iranian leadership at all. It's only going to cause the hardliners to gain more momentum. They're going to come back more forcefully, and they're going to invoke primacy in the Strait of Hormuz. And he was just like, shut up. It's woke and gay shit. I don't care. Okay? It's either that or he's just being blackmailed straight up. Maybe both. I don't know. But it just doesn't make any fucking sense. But here are the other dipshits.
How much longer do you expect this to go on? And do you think munitions should be a limitation at this point? What do you hear?
No, I don't think, the Pentagon has done a great job of restocking the munitions. I don't think that's an issue at all. But I can't.
Really? CSIS has contradicted this information. It doesn't seem to be the case at all. This is straight up. First of all, with what? How? How did we increase efficiency in our procurement strategies, in our manufacturing capabilities overnight? I know Trump has tried to institute the Defense Production Act and has demanded that Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, everybody, more forcefully try to re-up the American munitions. But at a certain point, unless you have some kind of, alchemy or some kind of like magic missile production capabilities, there's just no way to rebuild our defenses, rebuild our munitions, re-up our munitions. I just don't. Like, what are we doing? The only alternative that I can foresee here is the beast mode strategy, where they just throw F-15s, F-35s into the fucking line of fire with the hopes that they can expend their less costly, guided munitions. Some of those are still going to be. Some of the missiles that they're using are still missiles that they can strike from afar, as opposed to gravity bombs. But even then, that's a suicidal strategy. You're a socialist, right? That's a political philosophy, right? How can you be a Democrat and a socialist? That's contradictory, says the commie Jesus. It's because I'm everything, dude. I'm a Maoist. I'm a fascist. I'm all of the above, okay? That's it. I'm all of the motherfucking above.
And I do expect that we're going to be there
I'm
a long
vegan,
time.
I'm a meat eater.
Operation Northern Southern Watch went on for almost 20 years, I think. So I think this is going to be something similar. We're going to have to stay there. Those guys aren't going to change their behavior. We have to adapt, and I think we're going to have to get the Gulf states and those that rely on the oil coming from the Gulf states to help pay for this.
This is psychotic. Make no mistake, advocates for war with Iran make no secret of what they expect and want: an endless war. This retired general says, I do expect we are going to be there for a long time. Where are we going to have to stay? Where are we going to have to stay there? All it takes at this point is for China to fucking maybe slow roll their strategic exports, the minerals and the magnets necessary for bomb making, and then we're fucked. We have virtually infinite supply of unguided and guided munitions, gravity bombs, and the like, but we can't use them as long as the Iranian anti-air defense capabilities remain intact. Okay? That's the problem. So in order to take out the Iranian anti-air defense capabilities, which are mobile units for the most part, okay, in order to take them out, we've been expending our standoff munitions, the ones that we lob, the Tomahawk missiles and the missiles that we lob from afar. Iran has also simultaneously been blowing up some of these missile launchers in the Gulf. And on top of that, just kind of eating it. But ultimately, as long as Iran has anti-air capabilities that threaten American fighter jets, it's far too costly for America to try to do aerial bombardment missions over Iranian airspace. That's where we're at. Hello. Okay. These were reportedly taken by an American soldier at an undisclosed base. Aftermath of the Iran missile strike. You know it's an American soldier because he misspelled missile. We're not going to make it, man. We're not going to fucking make it. Oh, and there's this one. Haven't heard about Fog in a while. Join Fog. Travel to exotic places. Meet interesting people and kill them. For what it's worth, it seems that soldiers are being told that the increased precision impacts and delayed sirens are a result of more countermeasures being used and enhanced targeting data. I guess they don't talk about the radar situation. Aftermath of the Iran missile strike. From what I'm hearing, we're getting projected impact data, but the missiles are changing trajectory multiple times in flight, so the projected impact warnings are no good. Targeting data is obviously getting fed to Iran from China or Russia because where they are impacting / what they are targeting is insanely precise. Dude, at some point, you have to recognize that these guys have the ingenuity and the fucking leverage and the upper hand. Even now, even as your fucking barracks are destroyed and you're staring at your destroyed barracks, you're like, oh, it must be Iran. It must be Russia. Sure, they're probably giving, they're probably obviously giving additional targeting data, but like, how is this not a clear indication? How is it not a clear indication that the war efforts are failing? Big Cuba Day moment? Yeah, it is a big Cuba Day moment. Also, here's the other side of the story, I think, and this was my suspicion when I first saw that video, that direct target, that direct strike on U.S. barracks in Jordan. What I noticed immediately was the lack of sirens. And a lack of sirens means that their early advanced warning systems and their radars are out. So they don't know they're being bombed until the bombs start hitting. So their response time is far lower as a consequence of that. Or, you know, they're asleep and they're sitting ducks inside these fucking bases. Cool bidet moment, hashtag lettuce parasite. And if they don't have early advanced warning and they don't have the sufficient precautions, seems like the warnings aren't long enough, so there typically aren't air raid sirens. If they're piecing up American installations in Jordan, that means inevitably they can do that to Israel. And I think that's part of the reason why Israel's like, we're staying out of this. You guys got this, right? Hey, thank you, America. I know we goaded you into this, but you guys are good, right? Hey, you got this, King. And it's really funny because America's running out of bases in the region to store their Stratotankers. Because obviously, the maximum flight distance for these fighter jets, especially given like whichever kind of munitions that they have, even if they have these drop tanks, is like what, 500 miles? But the distance that they have to cover is approximately 800 miles. So they need to get refueled in the air. In order to get refueled in the air, you need to have Stratotankers. But you can't store the Stratotankers in Saudi Arabia. You can't store them in Kuwait. You can't store them in the American air bases in the region because Iran keeps blowing them up. So where are they putting the Stratotankers? They're putting it in Israel. And Israel doesn't like that because then it turns the Ben Gurion airport into a dual-use facility that is a priority target for Iran. Obviously, it's the summertime. Israel is a country that takes advantage of tourism. So they're trying to stop the fucking strato tankers from even landing in Ben Gurion Airport. They're like, no, you can't house the strato tankers that you're using to strike our mortal enemy at our behest in our civilian airports, because then they'll attack our civilian airports. The U.S. military is stationing lots of military refueling aircraft at an ostensibly civilian airport in Israel. This is another sign of desperation. These are being used in the war Israel wants America to fight in Iran. Now, Israel is saying they need to go because they're taking up parking space for civilian aircrafts, and Israel doesn't want to hinder travel season. What's the problem? You don't like the war that you ordered? I'm so confused. I thought we were moving I thought we were going to move CENTCOM to Israel. What happened? I thought that's what we were doing. I love this story because it's the most like Israeli mindset story of all time. Okay? Fight my war for me. I should experience zero repercussions as a consequence of you using all of your military assets, ruining the long-standing and existing relationships that you've cultivated over the last the last 4 or 5 decades with the Gulf region. Throw that all aside, and you can't even fucking put your strato tankers in my civilian airports. Sorry. It's travel season for Israel. It's summertime in Israel. You're ruining our economy. The most spoiled country of all time. It's unbelievable. And we are so fucking cucked that we can't even tell our spoiled fail son, shut the fuck up. We're doing this for you. Houthis just declared the Red Sea closed for Saudi oil. If this stands, a loss of another 4 to 5 million barrels per day. The Titanic is now hitting the iceberg, and there are not enough lifeboats for the world economy. Iran's leverage is soaring, says Robert A. Pape.
Chiefs are testifying on Capitol Hill this morning.
They are. The administration is requesting nearly $70 billion to pay for this war, and Secretary Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs Chairman will be on the Hill to defend that request. They will also likely be asked.
Yeah, Pete Hegseth had to go back to the Hill to beg for more money. Hasan, I've been trying to get my lib boyfriend to like you for years, but the mouse should just permanently turn you into Hitler in his eyes. Fucking thanks a lot. Who cares, man? Oh, sorry. Yes, I know. Liberals are fucking insane.
About the injuries and fatalities.
All right, Martha.
Let him get his information from wrong sources who are professionally wrong all the time. If a piece of garb is enough, for these people to just be like, oh my God, I can't believe it, this guy's basically Adolf Hitler, then yeah, he's a fucking moron, you know?
Sarah, thanks to you.
There's another new development that could be rattling global markets.
It isn't the garb, dude. Don't be dishonest. What is it? What is it then? That I have a fair and balanced approach to the People's Republic of China instead of taking a unbelievably violent posture to a foreign country. I don't treat China as a fucking foreign adversary. I give it the same critical thought that I give to the American founding fathers who literally owned slaves. Is that what it is? Account created this May, following for years, by the way. Something tells me that you actually have a problem and you're, making up a hypothetical like, oh, I've been a long-term fan of yours for years, dude. I almost changed my boyfriend's mind. but you fucking ruined it because you love Mao Zedong. You're the biggest fan of the Cultural Revolution. You're the biggest fan of the Great Leap Forward. Interesting. Am I? If you've been in here for years, you've probably heard me talk about these things. Talk about the Cultural Revolution. Talk about the excesses. Talk about the deaths due to mismanagement. So I suspect that you would know my full opinion. I still hate CCP, but you do have good analysis on where China was and where China is now. Yes, while the rest of the Western analysts have failed to properly identify where China is going, if you were in here for the last decade, you would have gotten a very different understanding of what the Communist Party of China was doing, okay, and where they're going. Do you want to understand the world, or do you want to close your eyes, plug your ears, and go, la, 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 la? These guys are just vicious monsters. That's it. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to love everything I'm saying, okay? All I ask for you is to listen. And it's so crazy to come in here and freak out about this shit at a time of vindication when Fareed Zakaria is coming out and literally being like, China has benefited the most from America's military quagmire. When you got Johnny Harris, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, all talking about how China actually cut down their oil imports dramatically in order to maintain stability in the energy markets. You would have heard that from my analysis months ago. Do normies really see Mao as his Hitler figure? Yes, they do. 100% they do. Yes. Liberals don't know anything about other countries. They've just been taught that like everyone is just as vicious, if not more vicious than Adolf Hitler actually was. For sure. You're in this Hong push survey. Some Democrats worry that Francesca Hong would have a difficult time beating a Republican in the general election. Hong proudly calls herself a socialist and says she supports defunding the police, the first step towards abolishing the police, and has appeared on a podcast with a controversial commentator who said Americans deserve the 9/11 tax. Ugh, it's my least favorite interpretation of what I've said. Yeah. For a lot of liberal education, they say Castro is Cuban Hitler. Okay. Che Guevara is also Argentinian/Cuban Hitler. Stalin is Russian Hitler. Mao Zedong is Chinese Hitler. Like everyone is a different variant of Hitler. And the only right approach, like there's no reasonable critique. It's just different flavors of Adolf Hitler. Ho Chi Minh is Vietnamese Hitler at the time. Obviously, that's changed a little bit now, I think, because like we have a much better relationship with Vietnam now. But at the time, it was, Ho Chi Minh was literally Vietnamese Hitler. Kim Jong-un is North Korean Hitler. That's just how Americans learn about this stuff. Let me guess, Pol Pot is based. I don't know if Americans know about Pol Pot, but I guess Pol Pot, I don't know what Americans think about Pol Pot. I guess he is, unironically, he is literally closer to Hitler than all of these other figures. But of course, we supported Pol Pot, and so did China at the time, alongside the United States of America. Big L for Chinese foreign policy, of course. So that's an interesting one because they were not this major American foreign adversary, because it was it corresponded to our needs in the region at the time to align with Pol Pot. And out of all of these like foreign adversaries or foreign leaders, he is actually the closest to Adolf Hitler, ideologically speaking, or you know, direct action wise. Ignored raid. Fire, thank you for the raid. Literally saw someone in your reply say you support him because he's a communist. I mean, I literally wear glasses. I need them to see. It would be the dumbest. You know, no, I do not. I agree. I just think you can't expect normies not to get upset to the sight of the mouse suit. They don't know. Yeah, I don't care. It's again, manufactured outrage. We all are adults. We're adults in this community and we're adults in general. We are all capable of critical thinking. If you see that and your immediate response is to lean into the manufactured outrage and say, oh, dude, why are you doing this? Of course, liberals are going to fucking say shit. Who cares? My answer to that is, who fucking cares? It's a Zhongshan suit. Obviously, a lot of Americans have unbelievable resentment towards China, to anything China related. I don't. And a part of my job is to try to get Americans to not be so fucking reactionary about other countries, including China. I want the American manufacturing base to be rebuilt. Okay? I do want that. I understand taking a necessary a necessary trade posture against China for certain sectors. But we have to also build those sectors, first of all. And we also have to chart a new path forward, one that is actually not treating China as a foreign adversary, but as an economic partner, because it is. But of course, no matter what happens, people in the United States of America are going to be unbelievably reactionary about this sort of stuff. But it doesn't fucking matter. It literally doesn't matter. Listen to the words that I'm saying rather than the Zhongshan suit. Facebook normies are in Fox News comments defending you, bro. Yeah, because Facebook normies are probably sick and tired of business as usual politics, so they don't give a fuck if I'm wearing a Chinese suit. Anyone that has the capability of listening to what I have to say rather than immediately going, oh, dude, you're wearing this Chinese suit. It's like really fucked up. Most people, I think most normies will look at that and go, well, that's a cool looking suit. Some people will say that's really fucked up. I can't believe he's doing that. But who gives a shit? Do they really think Chinese people are all Nazis since they love Mao over there? Libs are so dumb. I don't think they think about that at all. Especially because you have to remember most, with the exception of like, I guess, San Francisco immigrants, like a lot of the Chinese Americans for the longest time were coming from Taiwan. They're obviously very much against the Communist Party of China. So like they've already had like a very negative opinion of China. So they assume that every Chinese person, 1.4 billion of them living in the mainland, actually secretly despise the government and hate it a lot. But they're living under this like massive surveillance state, which is true. They are living under a massive surveillance state. But like that massive surveillance state is constantly keeping them down from actually, having this like successful revolution that is imminent. Like I would go so far as to say I think that's like the American mindset, that like every Chinese person, all 1.4 billion of them, actually fucking despise the party. They hate their government. They can't say anything about it because they're just too fearful, right? Like that's probably what their attitude is.
We are the
Maogate made it to Jason Smith. Did someone tell you the people of China are oppressed? The opposite is the case. The vast majority of Chinese citizens love the Communist Party of China. Chinese people pour into Shoshan, China every day to lay flowers at Mao's statue. An American journalist living in China, Jason Smith. Yeah, it's just so funny that like a lot of Americans who are at least a little bit knowledgeable about China, who will say like Deng Xiaoping saved China, right? The market reforms are what saved China. At least they know that the statement that they clipped out of context, where I'm like, oh, I would never disrespect Mao Zedong, when I was like jokingly talking to a chatter, responding to a chatter who was trying to claim that like Tiananmen Square isn't a mass surveilled area, right? And I was explaining how I got detained for like a moment by a Chinese cop who thought I was like making fun of Mao Zedong, and I was like, I would never make fun of Mao Zedong. Like saying I would never make fun of Mao Zedong, but also at the same time, the Cultural Revolution, a great leap forward, had great excesses, a lot of deaths, and that's understandably something that I'm critical of and have criticized. That is, ironically, that is the Dengist position. That is what Deng also advanced. Great reverence for Mao, while simultaneously pushing for marketization, liberalization, market reforms. I've been a fan for years, and I've been trying to get my Maoist boyfriend to like you, but he said you have seen the light of Deng, and he's put off. Thanks a fucking lot, dude. I apologize. Honestly, I'm surprised no one has called you out for cultural appropriation. Yeah, because they're too busy fucking saying I'm Chinese. They're too busy being like you're secretly a Chinese agent. You're Chinese.
Especially oil markets even more.
Why is it so hard to comprehend that Mao's failures were not solely upon him? Like the whole famine killing sparrow shit was something pushed by farmers and council members as well. Okay, to be fair, the Cultural Revolution you could actually put in the hands of Mao Zedong. almost single-handedly. Okay? Sure, the issues born out of famine, there are a lot of moving parts there. I think it's more so just the issue with like the decentralized structure, and how, there were technological limitations as well. But like, come on.
Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen have now declared their own naval blockade, they say, against Saudi Arabia.
What is this? That Chatter's last stream title?
Red Sea. That's another critical international shipping channel and oil route. And also, there's new reporting just in today that the Houthis have begun broadcasting messages warning Saudi ships to stop traveling in the Red Sea. Joining me right now is retired Army Major General James Spider Marks. He's the head of geopolitical strategy for Academy Securities. It's good to see you, Spider. Let's talk about this. I mean, the Houthis now threatening the Bab el-Mandab Strait, declaring this blockade on Saudi ships from passing through. If this really does go into effect, if we now have a second major shipping channel that is threatened and thus, there will be disruption to it, what does that mean for the United States if this becomes a new front of this war?
Well, it's been a front in the engagement with the Houthis in the past, as we realize. Also, bear in mind the Saudis, over the course of about a decade, tried to eliminate the Houthis without success. Many would say it's difficult to try to bomb an organization back into the 14th century.
Yeah, also, there's another country. There's another country closer to us that tried to eradicate the Houthis, also with no success. That's us. We did that. Like every single president since Obama has bombed Yemen as a matter of principle. Like it's something you have to do. That's the moment you become president. And yet, you know, it hasn't really, 2015 and onward, it hasn't really done anything.
And they're already in the 14th century. So the Houthis have had an opportunity to really establish themselves over time. They've been quiet, as you know, over the past 4 or 5 months as a result of epic fury, and their ability to stay in touch with Tehran, which is their primary lifeline for support, has been minimized as well. What this tells you is that they've been hunkering down, they have capacity, and they are now going to reach up
Houthis.
and turn up the heat, obviously. The concern truly is, do they have the capacity to do that? Can the Houthis close the Bab el-Mandeb? Well, they've done it in the past, but it's been opened again because of the efforts of the United States, not with a lot of help from other allied partners. But there's an incentive for the Saudis certainly to be involved, because the Saudis, have created a pipeline infrastructure, as you know, from the Gulf over to the Red Sea. This is the oil that's being pumped out. So that attempt to create an alternative and some resiliency and redundancy is now going to be threatened pretty significantly. So the U.S. has a presence. The Saudis have a capability. What is going to be done that's going to detract from epic fury, if in case, you know, if we are now on the front edge of a new engagement with Iran, will that alter that type of an attack profile? Those are the key issues that need to be addressed. So the Houthis can say a lot of things a priori. Right. Let's see what really happens. And then I guarantee you the Saudis will step up, and the U.S. will certainly get involved as well.
Nick, the Iran-backed Houthi group in Yemen, as you know, has declared its own maritime blockade on Saudi shipping. This is a big deal. What's the fallout from this?
Yeah, the Houthis are essentially a proxy of the Iranians. The Iranians have closed the Strait of Hormuz. The Houthis are threatening to close the equivalent on the Red Sea, known as Bab al-Mandab. About 6 or 7% of the world's oil and energy supplies come out through Bab al-Mandab along the coast of Yemen. This is mostly Saudi oil that's pumped all the way across the Arabian Peninsula from the Strait of Hormuz, where it's blocked, and it comes out through the Red Sea. So this is a significant escalation. The Houthis are militarily ready for this moment. However, they have not taken, or so far not acted upon, this decision to block the Saudis. If they do, then we can expect an escalation in a response from the Saudis. That is almost unquestionable.
Bab al-Mandeb Strait, it accounts for around 15% of traffic, maritime traffic. I mean, this is just such a huge risk. Countries are starting to really draw down their reserves. How worried should we be about the Houthis at this point?
Well, they haven't or at least they haven't enforced this blockade. But if they do, it's significant, because this was the exit that Saudi Arabia had used to avoid the Strait of Hormuz, which we know has been either locked down or kind of open or kind of closed for about 5 months. They were basically transporting via pipeline and convoy the oil to the Red Sea and trying to get it out that way. And they were doing that very successfully. Somewhere around the order of 4 million barrels a day had been exiting through this other choke point that now the Houthis want to close off. And so that is a significant threat. Not the kind of threat that the Strait of Hormuz is, but when you compile these things, it gets to be pretty significant. Now, oil prices, it is worth mentioning, although they are up about $20 from their low point from a few weeks ago when the Strait of Hormuz was mostly open, we're still also around $25 or $30 below the high point for the war. So the market right now is kind of saying, okay, we think that this could be a problem. Maybe there's some room to rise, but we're not quite at the level that we are or we were just a few weeks ago. The reason for that is that as you mentioned, there are these inventories. China has almost 2 billion barrels of oil in its inventory. It continues to draw down that, and that's sapped demand for oil imports. So the big picture is this is a bigger problem today than we had yesterday, but still the market thinks that it can be managed, at least for the time being.
I want to bring in Dina Esfandiari, Middle East geoeconomics lead for Bloomberg Economics. Dina, really good to have you with us. I want to start off with something you wrote on X, and you say this: the Houthis have announced a blockade of Saudi, framing it as a domestic issue. The move is intended to give them wiggle room to escalate from targeting Saudi ships only to expanding to wider disruption in the Red Sea. And Dina, we also know that the Houthis have already started broadcasting messages to vessels, putting out warnings as well. I mean, this could be another huge risk on global oil supply. How are you analyzing some of the scenarios that could play out in the next couple of days?
Absolutely. This is really significant, and it's really significant now because so much of the oil that was going through the Strait of Hormuz has now been diverted towards the Red Sea. The Saudis in particular have done that, reaching maximum capacity in their east-west pipeline. So that means that all of that oil that was going through Hormuz is now going to the Red Sea. The Houthis have been very careful to give themselves space. So they've now come out and said that they will target all ships that go in and out, that dock in and out of Saudi ports.
I don't know if they have the capability. I'll be honest. I mean, it's a mistake to ever underestimate the Houthis. It's always a mistake to underestimate the Houthis. It was one of my biggest misses in the beginning of Israel's genocide of Gaza, where I jokingly talked about how, like, oh, a 7-front war, really? Like, Houthis are actually gonna be a significant threat to Israel, and I was wrong about that. They were such a major threat to the Israeli economy that they successfully bankrupted one of Israel's 2 major ports with their blockade. And I was wrong. So I will never underestimate them again. But I do think, I do wonder if they have the capability to successfully and continuously blockade the Red Sea entry point, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, because I will say, yeah, this is what happened in the last port Ansar Allah blocked. In March 2024, the port operator announced plans to lay off half of his staff due to the Houthi attacks stymieing shipping trade to the port. On the 7th of July 2024, the port CEO told the Knesset Economic Affairs Committee that there had been no activity at the port in the past 8 months, and he was requesting financial assistance. Later, the CEO said that it must be acknowledged that the port is in a state of bankruptcy. On the 17th of July 2025, the port's bank accounts were frozen due to unpaid tax. The port completely shut down on the 20th of July 2025. Now, that port is, yes, a lot further away from Yemen than the Yanbu port is on the Red Sea. So it's probably a lot easier for the Houthis to successfully strike the Yanbu port and strike other Saudi ports on the Red Sea to render commercial traffic inoperable. So, you know. Yeah, the port of Eilat was the only Israeli port on the Red Sea, located in the northern tip of the Gulf of Aqaba. This strategic location has, given its outsized importance despite being remote, got shut down. Why are you counter-signaling Ansar Allah? What does Iran have that the Houthis don't? 47 years of underground facilities where they can build every tool, every part necessary, a direct line of commercial traffic by way of trains and railroads to China so they can get their components in time. They have a whole ass state apparatus. They have... Yeah, I mean, they have everything that the Houthis don't. The Houthis are a family that won the Yemen civil war, basically. The Houthis don't have a lot without the Iranian without Iranian shipments. Let's be serious for a second. They've done a lot with the limitations that they have. They're very proud people. They got heart, but ultimately, if we're talking about their manufacturing capabilities, I'm not super well versed. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know what kind of domestic manufacturing capabilities the Ansar Allah movement has, but you don't really need much. Here's the thing. You don't necessarily need a lot to be able to impede commercial shipping anywhere. You need some drones. That's it. Right? You just need drones. And the Houthis definitely have drones. I just don't know how many drones they have and how many missiles they have. In early 2025, the U.S. spent an estimated $7 billion bombing the Houthis with little to show for it. The U.S. burned through munitions but never even established air superiority, and the Houthis continue to fire at vessels at the Red Sea. Yes. Yes. This is, the 2025 U.S. Houthi conflict ultimately ended with Trump cutting a face-saving deal with the Houthis to desist attacks on U.S. vessels. Dude, this was so devastating. This was such a major blow. I covered it at the time. I don't know if you guys remember, but we literally waved the white flag and we told the Houthis that they can continue hitting Israel as long as they stopped hitting our naval assets in the region, that we would stop bombing Yemen as long as they promised they would stop blowing up our planes and blowing up our naval assets. That was insane. Trump came out and literally said, the Houthis have a lot of heart. They're very brave. They're great warriors. Do you not remember? Trump said, my mistake. The Houthis got hands. That was in 2025. That was a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. Biden also did something similar with the Houthis as well. Trump restarted Operation Prosperity Guardian when he took ownership. When he became the president, Trump did the exact same thing that Biden had done and failed at. Because the Houthis never stopped their blockade of Israeli shipping through the Red Sea. They never stopped it. Biden tried and failed. Trump brought it back, tried and failed. Part of that is because asymmetric warfare favors the side that is capable of striking through relatively cheap means. The side that is capable of striking at commercial vessels is always going to be able to successfully render travel inoperable. They're always going to be able to stop ships from transiting, because it's not even necessarily about a physical barrier that they're creating. They don't have that. They're not doing that. It's more so about the finances. The finances of it all. With a handful of drones, you can stop commercial shipping in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, because no one will ensure that ships are allowed to. No one will ensure ships transiting through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait if there is no guarantee that they can just pass through without being blown up.
But of course, how much they implement that threat is what everybody's going to be watching, because they could target just Saudi ships to begin with. They could go much bigger. At the end of the day, what matters is that they've made this threat. And ultimately, because they've done this in the past before, that threat is credible, and that's enough to scare a lot of people off.
Yeah, I mean, look, the wider issue here is what we're seeing from the U.S. side, and the Pentagon is saying nearly 100 U.S. troops were injured in the last 2 weeks. We know that Hegseth is expected to face senators today and, answer questions around the fact that they need more money for this war. From a Tehran perspective, they're reading into this. They're looking very closely at the U.S. strategy right now, and I guess who's going to buckle.
Isn't the Houthis a threat? Isn't the Houthis threat alone to shut down the Strait? Yes, they are. They are a threat alone. Of course. Of course they are, because they have done it already. They've done it successfully, so they can do it again. I'm just saying, I don't know how. Look, the only thing I was saying is I don't know how much they have in the tank. I don't know what their capabilities look like. I don't know if they are capable of continuously, for a long timeline, if they're going to be able to hold off commercial traffic. I don't know what kind of response America has in the books for the Houthis as well. We're